May the words of my lips and the meditations of all our hearts be now and always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Who are you? Who am I? I think my answer to that question would be that I am a son, a father, a child of God, and I think I'm going to add in priest to that. But what I am not is the joint rector of this place. Now, you might want to say that yes, you are. And I think what I'm looking at is who we are is different from what we do. I will always be a son, a father, a child of God, a priest, but I will not always be rector of this place. And whilst it's true that I haven't always been all of those things, I feel as though once I have become them, it cannot be taken away. There's a story about the Far East where someone was expecting a famous person to visit, and he turned up on their doorstep, not very well dressed, and was turned away with, "Don't you know we're waiting for this famous person to arrive? Go away." So he went away, put on his expensive robes and returned, where he was welcomed into the house with great ceremony. Whereupon he took off his robe, stood it by the table, and said, "I assume it is my robe you invited here, and not me, because when I came without it, you turned me away." Another example of the difference between who we are and what we do. When Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" they replied that people gave three answers. And it is perhaps worth just explaining a little that the three answers were different answers illustrating the people's thought about the highest human being that they could imagine. The Jews thought that Elijah would come back before the Messiah. Of course, Elijah didn't die, but was taken to heaven in a flaming chariot. So it would make sense that he could return, and he would return as the precursor to the Messiah. John the Baptist, again, was seen as a precursor to the Messiah. And Jeremiah was believed to have hidden the Ark of the Covenant when the Jews were taken into exile and the temple was destroyed. And it was thought that he would return to dig out the Ark of the Covenant before the Messiah came. So these were all very prestigious comparisons that people were giving. But they were human ones, and they were saying that Jesus was the highest humanity that they could imagine. And then Peter is asked, "Who do you say that I am?" And he says, "No, you're not the highest human. You are the Messiah. You are God." Jesus was the Messiah and couldn't change that. even though in the Garden of Gethsemane he prayed that the task of being Messiah, the vocation that the Messiah had, be taken from him. But it couldn't, because that is who he was. Recently, I saw a film in which a teenager was writing about her essay for admission to university. And the title was, "What do you want to be in 5 years' time?" And after much thinking, she decided that what she wanted to be was the best qualities of her friends and each of her friends and family. I can't quite make my mind up about that one, whether that is about being or whether it's about doing. I think the fact that I have accepted that whoever we are, we haven't always been, suggests that it is possible to develop qualities that we don't currently have. But I'm just a bit worried that it is about doing rather than being. Who we are is different to what we do. Although perhaps if we listen to who we are, we will discover a vocation that we can choose to follow. It is perhaps something, however, that will change. I've already talked about how who we are will change over time. My vocation 40 years ago is probably not my vocation today. Who I was 40 years ago is not who I am today. The challenge for each of us is to find who we are, and in understanding who we are, to understand what our current vocation is. I once heard it said that who God calls us to be is who Jesus would be if he were us. That is not saying that we are called to be like Jesus. That is saying we are called to be the best version of ourselves, the version of ourselves that Jesus would be if he were us. Understanding who and what that is, and what as a result we are then called to do, is the highest calling we can all have. In today's gospel, we saw the impact of Jesus, perhaps already knowing his calling, but sharing it with others. And I encourage all of us to do that work. Amen.